The call from Khloe's brother came again. It was the third time in 6 months she'd asked me for money, and the reason was always the same: to pay off his gambling debts. I transferred the last $10,000 from my account to hers. "I thought your brother was an only child," I asked, almost as an afterthought. The color drained from her face. In an instant, her phone was flying through the air, crashing into my temple. "What's that supposed to mean? Are you investigating me? If you don't trust me, then get out." I clutched my bleeding forehead, watching her slam the door behind her. Later, on the tablet she'd left behind, I saw her chat history with that brother. His contact name was my man Red Heart. Mine was ATM #2. The sharp corner of the phone struck my temple, and a starburst of pain exploded behind my eye. Warm blood trickled down, blurring my vision. I didn't wipe it away. I just stared at Khloe, at her beautiful face twisted in a mask of rage. "What the hell is that supposed to mean, Ethan? Are you accusing me of something? You've been digging into my family. If you don't trust me, then get out." The door slammed with a deafening crack, shaking dust from the ceiling. And then silence. The pain in my head was a dull throb, but I couldn't feel it. There was only a vast, crushing numbness. On the coffee table sat her tablet, forgotten in her haste. The screen was still on, displaying a selfie of her smiling sweetly. I once thought that was the most beautiful smile in the world. As if possessed, I picked it up and unlocked it with her birthday. A messaging app was open on the screen. The pinned contact at the very top was named my man Red Heart. The profile picture was some bleach blonde guy I'd never seen before. A chill spread through my limbs as I scrolled up, my fingers trembling. "Kyle, babe, did that moron buy it?" "Khloe, totally." He was practically in tears, saying he couldn't let anything happen to my brother. Khloe had sent a laughing emoji, the one with the hand covering its mouth. "Kyle, my girl's the best. You've got that idiot wrapped around your little finger." "Khloe, of course. You know who you're dealing with." "Kyle, babe, ATM #2 just sent over the last 10K. We've got enough for the trip now. Go ahead and book the flights to Europe." "Kyle, you're amazing." Moi. I kept scrolling down and found my own contact entry. I tapped the profile picture. It was a photo of me in a white button-down, looking over blueprints at a construction site. Khloe had said a man was sexiest when he was focused on his work. But the contact name wasn't Ethan. It was 3 cold, hard words. ATM #2. My stomach churned violently. I stumbled into the bathroom and collapsed in front of the toilet, heaving until there was nothing left but bitter acid. For 3 years, I had saved every penny, planning our future together. We had a pact: save up $70,000 for a down payment, and we'd buy our own little place in this city. I quit smoking. I turned down every happy hour, every unnecessary expense. I worked late every night, hunched over architectural drawings until my vision blurred. She would wipe the sweat from my brow and murmur, "You're working so hard, honey. It's all for our home." And I believed her. I gave her my debit card, keeping only a couple $100 for myself each month. She said her brother's business failed, and I transferred $15,000. She said her brother needed money for a wedding and a house, so I gave her the $30,000 my parents had given me for our future. She said he developed a gambling addiction, and again, I emptied my savings. A total of $70,000. The entire nest egg I had built for our down payment. Every last cent. And it all went into her pocket, and the pocket of my man Red Heart. They used my blood, sweat, and tears to dine at Michelin-star restaurants, buy designer bags, and now, to plan a trip to Europe. My stomach finally empty, I braced myself against the wall and stood up. The man in the mirror was a ghost, his face pale, the dried blood on his forehead a dark slash. His eyes were terrifyingly vacant. I walked back to the living room and continued scrolling through their messages. "Kyle, did you sell that bag the moron got you on Poshmark yet?" "Khloe, yep. Used the money to get you that new PS5 you wanted. Do you like it, baby?" "Kyle, love you more than anything, babe." They even laughed at me for working late. "Khloe, look at him. Works like a dog. Perfect for making us money." Attached was a photo of my back, hunched over my desk in the study. The timestamp was 3:00 a.m. I thought she was checking in on me, showing concern. Turns out, she was just taking a picture to entertain her lover. The future we planned together was, to them, the punchline of a very long joke. I didn't smash the tablet. Calmly, I picked up my own phone. I started taking pictures of the screen, one after another. The transaction histories, their humiliating words, their plans to squander my money. I saved every single one. Then, I went into the tablet settings and deleted my fingerprint from the lock screen. Finally, I wiped my prints off the device and placed it back exactly where I found it. When I was done, I shut it off. The dark, reflective screen showed me a face I no longer recognized, cold, hard, and devoid of emotion. The Ethan Miller she knew died in that moment. Khloe came back late that night, smelling of cheap wine and stumbling into my arms. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have gotten mad at you." She nuzzled against my chest, her voice soft and sweet, her go-to tactic. I saw an angry red mark on her neck. A hickey. I reached out and gently stroked her hair, my voice as calm as still water. "It's okay. It was my fault. I shouldn't have doubted you." She looked up, saw the bandage on my forehead, and pouted, not a trace of guilt in her eyes. "Does it still hurt? Let me kiss it better." She stood on her toes, blew gently on my forehead, and then planted a soft kiss on the bandage. "It's all my fault I hurt you. To make it up to me, you have to take me to that new Omakase place this weekend." "Okay." "Okay," I said with a smile, my arms wrapping around her waist. She smiled back, satisfied, assuming she had one, just like every other time. She didn't notice that my arms, holding her, were limp. She didn't notice that my eyes held no warmth at all. That night, she slept soundly, mumbling in her dreams. "You're so beautiful." I pulled the blanket over her, got out of bed, and went to the study. Opening my laptop, I found a folder that had been collecting dust for years. Inside were the prototypes and patent applications for an AI-assisted architectural design software I'd pour my heart and soul into during college. After graduation, to make money quickly so I could marry Khloe, I'd given up on pursuing a doctorate and taken a stable job as a designer. This project, which my mentor once said would revolutionize the industry, had been shelved. It was time to bring it back into the light. I dialed a number saved under Professor Wallace. It rang for a long time before someone picked up. "Hello? Who is this?" A familiar, powerful voice answered. "Professor Wallace. It's me, Ethan Miller." "Ethan." He paused, then his voice filled with excitement. "You rascal. You disappeared off the face of the earth after graduation. I thought you'd given up on the field entirely." "Never, Professor. I never forgot." I quickly explained my latest ideas, detailing how my years of professional experience had helped me refine the software. The line went silent, save for the sound of his heavy breathing. "Ethan, I need you to come see me. Right now. Immediately." After hanging up, I started organizing my bank statements, highlighting every transfer to Khloe in red ink. $70,000. Not a penny more, not a penny less. This was the ironclad proof of her unjust enrichment. The next morning, when Khloe woke up, I was already dressed. "Where are you going so early?" she asked, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Got a big project deadline. Have to go into the office." "More overtime?" she complained, but then a smile spread across her face. Okay. Work hard and make lots of money for me." She walked over and pecked me on the cheek. I looked at her fake smile, felt nothing but a hollow echo in my chest, and found it all deeply, profoundly ridiculous. "All for you," I said. I walked out the door and didn't look back. I didn't go to the office. I drove straight to Professor Wallace's house. I laid the complete project proposal and optimization plan on his desk. The old professor put on his reading glasses and went through it page by page, sometimes nodding, sometimes frowning. 2 hours later, he took off his glasses and slapped the table. "Genius. This is an absolutely genius concept." He immediately picked up his phone and called an old friend of his in the venture capital world. Things moved faster than I ever could have imagined. That afternoon, I went to the county clerk's office and registered a new LLC. CEO, Ethan Miller. Everything was in place for the technology transfer and the coming injection of capital. On the way home, I got a call from Khloe. "Honey, I want to get a new purse. Can we go shopping when you get home tonight?" Her voice was sickly sweet. Her man, Kyle, must have a new request, I thought. "Of course," I said softly. After I hung up, the last trace of a forced smile vanished from my face. "Khloe, your easy life is about to end." That weekend, as promised, I took Khloe to that expensive Omakase restaurant. She was in a great mood, ordering half the menu, snapping pictures for her Instagram story, and fawning over me. "Babe, don't I look pretty tonight?" "Beautiful," I replied flatly. She seemed to notice my indifference and put her phone down, a flicker of annoyance in her eyes. "Ethan, what's with you lately? You're always so distracted." "Just tired. The project's been intense." I placed a piece of fatty tuna on her plate. She seemed satisfied with that and didn't press further. Halfway through the meal, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her expression changed instantly. She took the call, walking to a corner of the restaurant and keeping her voice low, but I could still hear her. "What? How could that happen?" "I don't have any money. You put it all into an investment account." A few minutes later, she walked back to the table, her eyes red-rimmed. "Ethan," she said, her voice catching as she grabbed my hand. What's wrong? My brother. He was in a car accident. He's in the hospital. They're rushing him into surgery. They need $15,000 right now. The tears came on command, streaming down her cheeks in a masterful performance. You have to get the money for me, Ethan. It's life or death. I watched her pathetic act, my heart as still and cold as a frozen lake. Here it is. It's finally happening. I pulled my hand from her grasp and wiped it with a napkin. The money's tied up in a 3-month CD. I can't touch it. Khloe froze. She stared at me in disbelief, as if looking at a complete stranger. Me, the man who had always said yes to her every demand, was actually refusing her, especially at a moment of life or death. What did you say? Her voice turned shrill. Ethan, that's my brother. He could die. Do you hear me? She was becoming hysterical, drawing stares from the other diners. What is your problem? Do you not love me anymore? I looked at her, my expression blank, and said, word by word, if that's what you think, then yes. That sentence was like a switch, igniting her fury. Fine. Ethan, we're done. We're through, she shrieked, sweeping a glass off the table. It shattered on the floor with a sharp crack, punctuating her roar. You think I can't live without you? You pathetic, broke-ass designer. I've been sick of you for years. I nodded. Okay, just one word. No further explanation. No anger. No pleading. She was completely stunned. She had expected me to beg, to grovel, to soothe her, just like I had after countless other fights. But this time, I just watched her in silence. That silence terrified her more than any argument ever could. Fuming, she grabbed her purse and shot to her feet. You'll regret this, Ethan. The day will come when you're on your knees, begging me to take you back. She spun on her high heels and stormed out of the restaurant. The moment the door closed, a smile spread across my face. Step 1 complete. I calmly paid the bill and walked out. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Professor Wallace. Ethan, the investors are extremely impressed with your project. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., Apex Tower, 32nd floor. We signed the official papers. I texted back, got it. The sunlight was harsh, but my mind had never been clearer. Khloe, you're waiting for me to kneel and beg. No. Soon enough, you'll be the one kneeling before me. I didn't go home. I couldn't stand to spend another second in that apartment we rented together, a place filled with lies and deceit. I checked into a hotel near my old office. The next day, I hired a moving company and had all my things cleared out in half a day. My computer, my professional books, a few changes of clothes. As for all the trinkets Khloe had bought, the so-called proof of her love, which were actually just decorations paid for with my money, I didn't touch a single one. I blocked her on everything. Phone, WhatsApp, social media. All of it. As far as I was concerned, that woman had just vanished from the face of the earth. At 10 a.m. sharp, I arrived on the 32nd floor of the Apex Tower. As soon as the elevator doors opened, I saw a woman in a sharp business suit waiting for me. Her demeanor was crisp and professional. Hello, you must be Ethan Miller. I'm Claire Bishop, project manager at Windward Capital. Professor Wallace mentioned me, I believe. She extended a hand, her smile both professional and confident. Hello, Ms. Bishop. I shook her hand. Her grip was warm and firm. Inside the conference room, the entire investment team was assembled. Claire, acting as their representative, went over the technical details, market potential, and business model of my project one last time. Her questions were precise and sharp, each one cutting to the core of the issue. But I was prepared, and I answered every one without hesitation. In the end, the valuation they offered was far beyond my expectations. Mr. Miller, we have decided to make a seed investment of $1 million in your project, DreamBuild AI, Claire said with a smile, pushing the contract across the table. I picked up the pen and, without a moment's hesitation, signed my name. The first wire transfer of $200,000 hit my new company's bank account less than an hour after the signing ceremony. Staring at the long string of zeros and the notification on my phone, I felt no excitement. The first thing I did wasn't to celebrate, but to make a phone call. Hello, is this Mr. Davis? I'd like to schedule a consultation regarding a suit for the recovery of unjust enrichment. Mr. Davis was one of the top civil litigation attorneys in the city, recommended to me by Professor Wallace. That afternoon, in his law office, I laid out all the evidence I had prepared. A thick stack of printed screenshots of the chat logs. Bank statements for every single transfer. Mr. Davis reviewed everything meticulously, his brow furrowing deeper and deeper. When he finished with the last document, he pushed his glasses up his nose. Mr. Miller, your case is airtight. The chain of evidence is complete, and the facts are clear. Your chances of winning are extremely high. Then I'll leave it in your hands, Mr. Davis. My demand is simple. I want Khloe Adams to return the full $70,000 she received from me, plus interest calculated at the standard bank rate. I filed the lawsuit without a second thought. I wasn't after the money. I was pulling the rug out from under them. I wanted to watch them tear each other apart over that $70,000. A week later, Khloe and Kyle were in their rented apartment, complaining about being broke. Khloe still thought I was just throwing a tantrum, that I'd come crawling back to her like a kicked puppy in a few days. She was already planning how she'd play hard to get, how she'd squeeze even more money out of me when I begged for her forgiveness. The doorbell rang. Kyle opened it, annoyed. A uniform process server handed him an envelope. From Ms. Khloe Adams. Please sign here. Khloe tore open the envelope, scoffing when she saw the word summons in bold letters. Who the hell has the nerve to sue me? Her words trailed off as her eyes fell on the plaintiff's name and the amount being demanded. The smile on her face froze. Plaintiff. Ethan Miller relief sought. Plaintiff requests the court order defendant Khloe Adams to return unjust enrichment in the amount of $70,000 plus interest. $70,000. The world went dark. The summons fluttered from her hand to the floor as her legs gave out. Kyle picked it up. After reading it, his first instinct wasn't to help her. His eyes lit up with a greedy fire as he grabbed her wrist, his voice sharp. You have to pay back 70 grand? Where are you going to get that? You told me that idiot was broke. Their alliance, held up to the harsh light of money, showed its first massive crack. Meanwhile, I was with Claire, scouting locations for our new office. The game had just begun. 70,000? Is he insane? Khloe shrieked, hurling her phone against the wall. The screen spiderwebbed with cracks. She had called me dozens of times, but the automated message was always the same. The person you are calling is unavailable. She tried from a different number. I declined it instantly. It was only then that she realized I wasn't playing games. I was serious about making her pay. You need to go find that fool. Get him to drop the lawsuit. If you don't, we're both screwed. Kyle, all his past affection gone, screamed at her with a monstrous look on his face. He had been pressuring her for days. The down payment on the used sports car he wanted was due, and their European vacation was nothing but a fantasy. Without my constant cash flow, their carefree life came to a screeching halt. I can't find him. He blocked me everywhere. His old firm said he quit. Khloe cried back. She'd gone to the architectural firm where I used to work, only to be told by the receptionist that I'd resigned a week ago. She was running around like a headless chicken, searching for me in the world I used to occupy, but I had vanished without a trace. Useless. Can't even keep one man on a leash. Kyle kicked the coffee table and, for the first time, shoved Khloe so hard she fell to the floor. I don't care how you do it. Cry, beg, kneel, whatever. Find him, or you can come up with that 70,000 yourself. Sprawled on the floor, Khloe looked at the man who had once been so tender with her and felt a pang of real fear. With nowhere else to go, she went home, the one place she dreaded most. A family that had always favored her brother, that saw her as little more than an ATM. She spun a sob story, exaggerating how her ex-boyfriend had scammed her and left her with a massive debt. She thought her parents would at least offer some comfort. Instead, her father's hand cracked across her face. You have the nerve to come back here, running around with some deadbeat, and now you're in debt up to your eyeballs? You've disgraced this entire family. Her mother joined in, wailing and cursing. How'd I raise such a shameless daughter? $70,000. Where are we supposed to get that kind of money? Your brother needs to buy a house. It turned out the gambling debts she'd always told me about, the ones her brother supposedly had, were all lies. She didn't have a brother, only a younger brother, the golden child the entire family doted on. After a tirade of abuse, Khloe was thrown out of the house without a single dollar, like a stray dog. Devastated, she returned to the apartment she shared with Kyle. When she opened the door, she saw him dragging a suitcase, trying to sneak away. Kyle, where are you going? She screamed, lunging for the suitcase and clinging to it for dear life. Let go, he yelled, kicking her away. You're bad luck. There's no more money to squeeze out of you, and you still want to stick around. You lied to me. You never loved me. Love? If I loved you, do you think I'd let you go sleep with another man? You were just a tool, a pretty one at that. And now the tool is broken, so it's time to throw it away. They fought, tearing at each other in the small apartment. Kyle's words were knives, gutting the last of Khloe's fantasies. She had always believed I was the backup plan and Kyle was true love. She thought she was a queen, playing two men like puppets. In the end, she was the most pathetic tool of all. She had lost her stable ATM, and she had finally seen the parasite Kyle for what he truly was. In that moment, her world collapsed completely. At the same time, my company with Claire, Dreambuild AI, officially opened its doors. Our office was bright and modern, and our founding team was in place. A few sharp-eyed industry publications had already taken notice of us, this rising star of architecture, and were scheduling interviews. I stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the endless stream of traffic in the city below. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Davis. No executable assets found under Ms. Adams's name. The court has issued a judgment against her and destroyed her credit. I calmly deleted the message. This was all just the appetizer. The court's final ruling came down. Khloe was ordered to repay me the full $70,000 plus interest. Khloe cleaned out the last of her cash and vanished. The landlord, fed up with late rent, threw her and her belongings out onto the street. Her credit cards were all maxed out, and her phone was bombarded daily with calls and texts from debt collectors. Khloe, pay what you owe. If you don't, we're coming to your hometown, to your job. Your name is on every credit blacklist. You can't get a loan. You can't get a credit card. Where are you going to run? She was a certified deadbeat. Her job was gone too. She'd been a receptionist, popular with management and colleagues for her good looks. But the court-ordered wage garnishment notice was sent directly to her company, and her scandal spread like wildfire. The company fired her, citing severe damage to the company's image. She went from being the adored, beautiful receptionist to a social leper everyone avoided. Haggard and disheveled, she hid in a $50 a night motel, chewing on stale bread. In a moment of desperation, she opened her phone and mindlessly scrolled through the news. A headline in the business section caught her eye, stinging like a slap. Genius designer Ethan Miller. How AI will revolutionize the future of architecture. In the photo, I was wearing a perfectly tailored suit, standing in the spotlight, accepting an interview with calm confidence. Beside me, smiling radiantly, was Claire Bishop. We looked like a power couple, a perfect match. The article painted me as a business prodigy who had risen from the ashes of betrayal, praising Dreambuild AI to the skies. In just a few short months, my company had completed 2 rounds of funding and was valued at over $100 million. And she had fallen from the clouds into the gutter. A toxic mix of jealousy and regret coiled in her heart like a snake. No, this isn't how it's supposed to be. Looking at the photo of me, shining and successful, a ridiculous thought began to form in her mind. Ethan still loves me. He's doing all this to get back at me, to get my attention, to force me to come back to him. All I have to do is find him, swallow my pride, and beg. He'll soften up. He loved me so much. How could he really be done with me? Once the thought took root, it grew wildly, becoming her only lifeline. She was convinced I still had a place for her in my heart. She found out from a friend that I was scheduled to be a keynote speaker at a major industry summit. With the last of her money, she bought a cheap dress from a discount store, something she thought looked presentable. She spent a long time on her makeup, trying to cover the gaunt, sallow look on her face. She pictured the reunion. I would see her, haggard and broken, and I would be shocked, my heart aching for her. Then, I would forgive her. Like the hero in a movie, I would pull her in my arms, take her back, and let her return to a life of luxury. She forged an entry pass and slipped into the glittering summit hall with the crowd. Her eyes scanned the room like a predator searching for prey. Finally, she saw me on stage, poised and charismatic. I was giving my keynote speech to a packed audience of industry titans and reporters. Her breath quickened, her palms sweating. This is it. She would make everyone see how much I loved her. She would stage a grand, dramatic comeback. The core of AI technology is to liberate a designer's creativity, not to replace it. Our future lies in human-machine collaboration, in co-creating more beautiful architectural spaces. I finished the last part of my speech. The room erupted in thunderous applause. I smiled, bowed to the audience, and walked off the stage to sit beside Claire. Next was the media Q&A. Reporters swarmed us, a forest of microphones and cameras pointed in our faces. Mr. Miller, what are the next steps for Dreambuild AI's financing? Ms. Bishop, as an investor, what was it about Mr. Miller that impressed you the most? I was about to answer when a figure burst through the security line, rushing toward me like a missile. Ethan! A piercing cry silenced the entire hall. Khloe grabbed my arm, practically hanging off me. Ethan, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Can we please start over? I'm begging you, she wailed, tears and snot streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. She was a complete mess. After a beat of stunned silence, the flashbulbs went off in a frenzy. The reporters had smelled a story far juicier than any business announcement. Security guards rushed forward to pull her away, but I stopped them with a raised hand. Claire frowned, a hint of concern in her eyes. I gave her a reassuring look, motioning for her to step back. I didn't push Khloe away. I even steadied her as she swayed, helping her stand. Then I picked up the microphone beside me, turned to her, and also to the sea of cameras, my voice gentle, almost cruelly so. "Ma'am, I think you have me confused with someone else." Khloe froze, staring at me in utter disbelief. "Ethan, it's me. It's Khloe. How can you not recognize me? Are you still mad at me?" she sobbed, trying to win sympathy. "Oh," I said, nodding as if in sudden realization. Then I looked directly at the cameras and spoke calmly, clearly, enunciating every word. "Now, I remember. You're the woman who saved my contact info as ATM #2, and then used the $70,000 I was saving for our mortgage to support your My Man Red Heart. Ms. Khloe Adams, correct?" One sentence. That's all it took. The room exploded in gasps. A wave of shock rippled through the crowd as they stared back and forth between us. Khloe's crying stopped abruptly. The blood drained from her face, leaving it a deathly, chalky white. She started to tremble, her lips quivering, unable to form a single word. I didn't stop. With a small smile, I looked at her and at the cameras and delivered the killing blow. "But I should thank you for turning me down back then. Otherwise, my company would never have had that precious seed money, and I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. A public execution. On the grandest stage, in the calmest voice, I had exposed the ugliest truth. This was the final performance I had prepared just for her. Her social death, delivered by my own hand." Khloe stood there, frozen, like a statue with its soul ripped out. From my briefcase, I pulled out a prepared file. As I did, my hand slipped, and a thick stack of A4 paper slid out, scattering across the floor like grotesque snowflakes. The reporters closest to me were the quickest. They lunged for the papers. "Holy crap, these are chat logs. And bank statements. My God, it really was 70,000. Works like a dog. Perfect for making us money. That's just evil. ATM #2. A new low." The flashes intensified, aimed at the papers on the floor and at Khloe's bloodless face. She screamed and tried to snatch them, but the security guards, now on high alert, held her back. All she could do was watch as her dirtiest secrets were laid bare for the world to see, to photograph, to gossip about. I gathered the remaining papers in my hand and picked up the microphone again. All eyes returned to me, to thank Ms. Adams for teaching me such a valuable life lesson. My voice boomed through the speakers, reaching every corner of the hall. "I have decided in my personal capacity to establish the True Guard Legal Aid Foundation. The foundation's first round of seed funding will come from the very $70,000 that Ms. Adams has just returned to me. This foundation will be dedicated to providing free legal assistance to young people who have been deceived, exploited, or treated as an ATM in their relationships. We will help them get back what is rightfully theirs, not just their property, but their dignity." When I finished, the hall was silent for a moment, then erupted in a deafening wave of applause that went on and on. The reporters now looked at me with respect and admiration. The entrepreneurs in the audience nodded, their expressions approving. I hadn't played the victim or aired my grievances. Instead, I had transformed a personal scandal into a brilliant PR move, crafting an image for myself as a responsible, high-minded young business leader. It wasn't enough to destroy her. I had to salt the earth. I had used her scandal as a stepping stone to the moral high ground. Amidst the thunderous applause, Khloe completely broke down. She collapsed to the floor, letting out an animalistic wail before two security guards dragged her out of the hall like a sack of garbage. That night, #ATM2 strikes back, #UltimateXEthanMiller, and #TrueGuardFoundation all trended on Twitter. Khloe, in a way she could never have imagined, was finally famous. Her photos, her old workplace, her home address, all of it was doxed by furious internet users, making her the target of nationwide scorn and ridicule. After the summit, Claire and I walked out of the brilliantly lit convention center together. The cool night air cleared away the lingering buzz. Claire turned to me, a hint of a smile in her bright eyes. "That was brilliant." I smiled back. "We're just getting started." The power of the internet is absolute. As Khloe's scandal continued to ferment online, the story's other protagonist, my man Red Heart Kyle Vance, was quickly identified by the internet's army of sleuths. His photos, videos of him picking up women in his secondhand sports car, everything was exposed. And that exposure brought more victims out of the woodwork. Soon, several other women who had been conned out of their money and emotions by Kyle contacted my True Guard Foundation. Their stories were almost identical to mine. Kyle always posed as a wealthy heir, charming them off their feet before inventing reasons like a temporary cash flow problem for an investment or a family emergency to bleed them dry. Khloe was just one of his many ATMs, and not even the one he'd taken the most from. The Foundation's legal team moved swiftly, providing pro bono services to these women. A joint lawsuit was filed, charging Kyle Vance with multiple counts of fraud. Kyle became a wanted man, constantly on the run. He thought he could just move to another city and start over, but his reputation had already spread across the country online. Finally, in a grimy, smoke-filled gaming cafe, he was tackled and arrested by police who seemed to appear out of thin air. Faced with overwhelming evidence and multiple fraud charges, Kyle was convicted and sentenced to 10 years in prison. As they slapped the cuffs on him, he was still cursing. "It's all that bitch Khloe's fault. If it wasn't for her, none of this would have happened." Khloe's situation, however, was even more dire. At least Kyle had a roof over his head and 3 meals a day in prison. She had to face a world that despised her, all on her own. No company would hire her. The moment her resume landed on an HR desk, she was recognized and it was tossed in the trash. She tried to get work as a waitress, as a dishwasher, but customers would recognize her, snap photos, and post them online with cruel captions. "Look, it's the famous wallet woman, reduced to washing dishes." You love to see it. Everywhere she went, she was met with whispers and pointed fingers. "See her? That's the one who scammed her boyfriend out of 70 grand to support her boy toy. She looks so normal. How can she be so rotten inside? Serve her right. Women like her deserve to be broke and alone forever." Contempt, ridicule, and scorn followed her like a shadow. She kept moving from one city to the next, but her infamy always arrived before she did. She was like a monster trapped in a glass cage, constantly watched and judged by everyone. I heard snippets about her from time to time through Claire. A friend of Claire's had seen a disheveled Khloe in a diner, getting screamed at by the manager. I just took a calm sip of my coffee. "Is that so?" No further comment, no emotional reaction. Whether her world was a living hell or not was no longer my concern. My future was aimed at the stars. A year later, DreamBuild AI held its successful IPO on NASDAQ. As the company's founder and CEO, my net worth skyrocketed overnight. $100 million was just the beginning. The celebration was held at the most exclusive hotel in the city. Champagne, applause, and a blur of elegant guests. I stood on stage, thanking my employees and partners for their support and hard work. Finally, my gaze fell on Claire in the audience. "And I have one person to thank above all others," I said. "My partner, and also my girlfriend, Ms. Claire Bishop. Without her, there would be no DreamBuild AI." The spotlight found Claire. She stood up, a warm, radiant smile on her face. The room filled with knowing laughter and congratulatory applause. Claire and I raised our glasses to each other across the room, sharing a silent toast. No words were necessary. The party wound down late into the night. As Claire and I were leaving, I saw a familiar yet alien figure standing under the bright lights of the hotel entrance. The figure was small and gaunt, shivering in the cold wind, dressed in cheap, faded clothing. It was Khloe. She was even more withered than a year ago. Her face was sallow, her hair a dry, matted mess, and her eyes were empty, like 2 black holes. She looked nothing like the vibrant, proud-as-a-peacock girl I remembered. When she saw me, her face lit up as if she'd seen a savior. She rushed forward, ignoring everyone, and then, with a thud, she dropped to her knees right in front of me. "Ethan." Her voice was a dry, ragged whisper, like sandpaper. "I was wrong, I was so wrong." She choked out, tears and snot mixing on her face. Please just let me go. Give me a chance to live, okay?" She clutched at my pant leg, her dignity ground into the dust. The surrounding guests stopped, watching the scene with curiosity. Claire stood beside me, her brow furrowed slightly as she looked down at the kneeling woman, but she said nothing. There was no hostility in her eyes, only a faint trace of pity. "I know you still love me, right?" she pleaded. "You did all this to get back at me, to make me regret it, and you succeeded. You're a big shot now. I regret it, Ethan. I really, really regret it. Can we go back to how things were? I'll do anything. I'll be your slave. Just let me come back to you." Her logic was still trapped in that self-centered world of the past. She still believed the entire universe revolved around her, that my success today was all because of her. It was pathetic. The queen who once sat on her throne was now kneeling on the pavement, begging for scraps. This was supposed to be the ultimate climax of my revenge. But as I looked down at her, all I felt was a barren, empty calm. I took a step back, breaking her grip. It felt as if her desperate, dirty fingers had stained my clothes. I turned to a nearby hotel security guard. This woman appears to be unstable. Could you please escort her off the property? The guards immediately moved in, taking Khloe by each arm. No, Ethan, you can't do this to me. Khloe shrieked, her eyes wide with disbelief as she began to struggle wildly. How can you be so cruel? Have you forgotten? We were together for 3 years. You said you would love me forever. I finally looked her straight in the eye. It was the first time since our breakup that I had truly, properly looked at her. At her withered face, her empty eyes, her twisted obsession. I spoke calmly, my voice low but clear enough for her to hear. Khloe, you've got one thing wrong. She stopped struggling, staring at me blankly. None of this was to get revenge on you, and it certainly wasn't to make you regret anything. I watched her eyes widen in horror as I shattered her last illusion, word by word. Because, to me, you were never that important. Were you ever worthy? Those 3 words were more brutal than any insult. They completely invalidated her entire existence in my life, every memory, every meaning. She thought she was the tragic heroine of my story, that her actions had upended my world. But I was telling her she didn't even qualify as my antagonist. She was a piece of gum I'd accidentally stepped on. Disgusting, yes, but once you scrape it off, you never think about it again. I was just taking back what was mine, so I could go on and live the life I was supposed to have. As for you, whether you're doing well or not, whether you live or die, it has nothing to do with me. I looked at her eyes, now completely devoid of light, and delivered my final line. Oh, and one more thing. If I had to say there was a connection, I should probably thank you for your betrayal. It ended that mistake of a life ahead of schedule and showed me what I really wanted. From start to finish, the only person I have to thank in all of this is you. Thank you for your betrayal. Thank you for your cruelty. Thank you for making me become a better version of myself. Khloe's body went limp, and she was dragged away by the security guards like a rag doll. I didn't spare her another glance. I took Claire's hand, her warm fingers lacing with mine. Let's go home. Yes, let's go home. I opened the car door for her, and we settled inside. The black Bentley shot through the night like a bolt of lightning, leaving the scene far behind. In the rearview mirror, the kneeling figure on the pavement grew smaller and smaller until she was just a blurry black dot, utterly abandoned by me, left behind in another world. My world, from that day on, was filled with endless sunshine and not a single cloud. A few years later, Claire and I got married. The ceremony was held in a glass conservatory we designed ourselves, with a retractable roof that opened up to a perfect view of the stars. We didn't invite many people, only our closest friends and family. Professor Wallace, acting as my witness, was flushed with wine and clutched my hand, saying with deep satisfaction, "Ethan, you didn't disappoint me." I looked at Claire beside me, radiant in her white dress, and felt like I had the entire world. After our wedding, our business empire continued to expand. DreamBuild AI became the undisputed giant of the industry. We also had a child, a lively and adorable boy. Our life was so happy it felt like a fairy tale. I had almost completely forgotten the name Khloe Adams, forgotten that entire sordid chapter of my past. Until one day, while scrolling through the news in my office, a pop-up ad for a local news story flashed across the screen. The headline read, "Woman arrested for repeat shoplifting, identified as infamous wallet woman from viral scandal." On a strange impulse, I clicked it. The article was short, accompanied by a mugshot. The woman in the photo wore handcuffs. Her face was skeletal, her expression numb, her hair a tangled mess. If it weren't for the faint outline of her features, I would never have connected her to the beautiful girl from my memory. The article said that, unable to hold down a job and with no means of support, she had turned to petty theft. It started with food, then cosmetics, then clothes. She was a repeat offender, and this time, she was finally sentenced to prison. I felt nothing. It was like watching an irrelevant ad. Claire walked in with a cup of hot tea and set it on my desk. "What are you looking at so intently?" I smiled, shook my head, and closed the news tab. Nothing. Just some clickbait. I stood up and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. The sun was shining brightly outside. On the lawn below, our son was chasing our golden retriever, his laughter bright and clear. Claire came up from behind and wrapped her arms around my waist. "It's time to go home and play with your son, Mr. CEO." I turned and kissed her on the forehead. "Yes, ma'am." This was my world now, filled with sunlight, love, and hope. As for the woman named Khloe, whether her life ended in a free fall or rotting in the mud, she was nothing more than an insignificant speck of dust in another universe. She had nothing to do with me.